went to the Water Management District a couple of last month at their meeting. They said we didn't understand. They said that there were constraints that we just didn't understand. And they said it was complicated. They told us several times it was complicated. They almost patted us on the head. And Mark pointed out that we know there are constraints, don't we? The idea is to remove the constraints. The University of Florida report pointed out that those constraints can be removed. So the fact that there are constraints is not an issue. The second thing they said is, well, we need to finish existing projects first. We can't be going and buying land when we should finish the reservoirs we're working on. The University of Florida study makes something else clear that's really important. And it sounds inflammatory coming from inflammatory people like me, but if they do not exercise the option and buy land for storage south of the lake, Everglades National Park will die, Miami will lose its water supply, and our estuary here and the estuary on the west coast will die. The University of Florida report says that. The University of Florida report says you can do everything you want north of the lake, and there are lots of good things that need to be done up there. But that's not going to keep you from dumping out the estuaries and failing to send the water south. So I can't tell you how important it is for you to get on one of those websites and click away at sending emails to people. All you have to say is, buy the land, send the water south. But you can say anything you want. You can give them lectures, and you can educate them, and you can do all sorts of useful things. You folks can be very proud. We are the tail that has been wagging the dog. If you go to the Capitol steps for clean water, if folks there are from Martin County, not half maybe, but there are more people from Martin County than any place else. If you go down to the Water Management District, there are more people from Martin County than anywhere else. We're trying to teach Dade County they're about to lose their water supply. We know they are. You folks have been monumental, but I think that's one of the things that even the folks that I actually have a number of friendly acquaintances in the development community. And the ones I have that are friendly acquaintances are not the ones I spoke of who are sending me anonymous emails and being nasty in all directions. They just always give those people money, and they always vote for them because that's what their living depends on. But I can tell you those folks care about the river too. And if we can get everybody in this county who cares about the river to send an email and make a phone call, we can make a difference. Enough inspiration. Any questions from anybody on anything I said? Yes?
Maggie, you commented on possible corporation at Palm City, and as a past commissioner for the last 12 years, that would be an insane idea. There is so much cost involved in running your own community. Economies of scale that you currently enjoy with the county, you'd never be able to attain. It's just financially impossible. The numbers aren't there. So, I mean, whoever came up with that idea should do a little math and do a little research and to find out how the trend of state support for cities has diminished over the last, how long has Scott been in office? 5 years? In the last 5 years.
And for those of you who...
It's gone down, and gone down, and gone down, and will continue to go down until hopefully be always term limited. So.
There is no free lunch to being a local municipality or a local county. There's no free lunch to being a local government. It costs money. And I was astounded when I was on the Board of Tax Adjustment to realize that if I had a dead shopping center, I didn't have to pay much taxes at all. But if your house is in foreclosure, you still have to pay full taxes on the full fair market value. If for 1 minute you believed that commercial zoning was going to make the difference, look at the strip in downtown Stuart. How much more commercial could you have? From Walmart all the way to the other side of the bridge. And you know, they are paying fairly high millage to continue to be a city. It just doesn't work. I'm not really afraid they're going to incorporate. I'm afraid that folks are going to accept an idea that sounds plausible, that the more commercial we have, the better off we'll be as taxpayers. I took occasion at one point to look through all of the 60-something counties in Florida to see who had the most industrial land use. They didn't have the best tax base. We had a better tax base than they did. Lloyd, did you have a question?
Maggie, would you discuss, as much as you're allowed to, your slap suit against you?
I'd love to. I am being slapped by Lake Point, a rock pit in the western part of Martin County that claims it's saving the Everglades. I said it wasn't. They sued me, they sued the Water Management District, and they sued the county. And a slap suit is a strategic lawsuit against public participation. You can look it up in Wikipedia. It says the purpose of a slap suit is not to win. It is to harass and frighten and cost people money. They have harassed me. They have not frightened me. They have cost a lot of money. I have a slapback fund. If you will go to slapmaggy.com, you can learn all the gory details of what is really a fairly exciting melodrama if you take all the cast of characters into effect on it. Right now, it's gone well beyond just trying to slap around Maggie. I'm kind of flattered. I think the suggestion is if you can make me be quiet, you can make all of you be quiet too. And so I'm not going to be quiet. But the latest quirk in it is something that you will see more of on the state level, which is the proposal that they sell water. They started as a polo subdivision. They couldn't sell the polo subdivision. They went into rock mining. They couldn't sell the rock. Now they want to sell water. They told everybody they were going to take the water from the discharges that we don't want, and they were going to sell it to somebody who wanted it. Now, if you're a city utility in Broward County, and you're only going to get water in this contract when it's being dumped out Lake Okeechobee onto Martin County, is this going to give you a dependable water supply? No. You don't have to be a hydrologist to know that. And so, on questioning, we find that they don't really expect to sell any water from the discharges. They can't begin. You know, you're talking 9,000 cubic feet per second going out the locks when they're discharging. They're talking at the most pumping 90 cubic feet per second out of the river. They're not going to make a dent in the whole thing. They're spitting in the wind. So what they're going to do is they have a permit to water their sugarcane. And they're proposing that they continue to pump water out of Lake Okeechobee and the St. Lucie Canal under the sugarcane permit. And then they don't water their sugarcane with it. They sell that to other people. Under Florida water law, the people of the state of Florida own the water. You are given permission to use it by permit as a reasonable beneficial use. This is not Western water law. You don't own your permit. You can't sell it to somebody else. Try imagining if the entire EAA decided that they could control all the water on the east coast of Florida, because all they have to do is sell their water use permits. Just think, have them over a barrel there in the urban areas. But it is one of my friends, after I sent them the latest beautiful picture of my attorneys and myself tromping around the Lake Point property. They were rather difficult about letting us on the property. They insisted we have hard hats and a variety of other things. So my attorneys made hard hats for us. Howard says, slap protector. Has the kryptonite sign on it. Jenny says, I heart Maggie. Mine says, I am Maggie. But slapmaggie.com. And if you get it backwards, it still works. MaggySlap.com will get you to that website. I hope we win before I die. But these things do go on forever. And I need to tell you that, as I told the county commission on Tuesday, if it was not for the people in Martin County, if it was not for Jenny and Howard, if it was not for friends around the state, and for perfect strangers who've sent me checks, I'd feel like David without a slingshot. So thank you all.
land, saying that we already own an EAA reservoir in the Talisman, and why that is not a good trade-off.
Okay, what happened was Talisman is a huge sugar outfit that even before SERP was approved, they were running out of dirt and muck. It was the southern end of the EAA. They were getting down near the bedrock. They couldn't grow sugarcane as profitably down there. And they made an offer, I think it was $3,000 an acre, to the federal government in the 1990s. And even before the SERP plan was approved, the federal government went ahead and acted on that offer and bought the Talisman lands. The original EAA storage reservoir was supposed to be built in the Talisman land, but the district jumped ahead and started it and then backed off, and it never, a lot of money got spent on it, but never got built. In the meantime, and Mark explained this, but it got a little confusing looking at the pictures, the southern end of the EAA has stormwater treatment areas in it. They are intended to clean the water up before it goes south to the Everglades. And there are not enough of them. And the water is still not meeting water quality standards. Lawton Childs laid down his sword to the federal court in the 1990s and said, we will meet the water quality standards. We built the first STAs down in the Talisman areas. When we ran out of money sometime in 2000, 2008, we stopped and went back to federal court and said, we don't have to do that. When Rick Scott became governor, he said, why are we wasting all this money in federal court? And they said, well, you know, it's a bad habit or whatever it is. We don't want to have to build the water quality improvements. And it was one of the things the governor did dedicate himself to solving and did solve. But the land he used was Talisman, where the reservoir had initially been supposed to go. So that was and it was also land from the partial sugar purchase that had happened some years ago. So now we've got the south end of the EAA full of STAs. But the basic problem with why not store water somewhere else, we keep 2 feet of water in Lake Okeechobee in the dry season. So sugar can be irrigated. So they won't run out of water. Now, again, you don't have to be a hydrologist to know that our dry season is winter. In the dry season, our lakes are normally lower. In the wet season, our lakes are normally higher. Not so here. Our lake is 2 feet higher in the winter to keep water for sugar, just in case they need it. It's 2 feet lower in the summer in case a hurricane comes along and fills the lake up and threatens to die. So, in dry year, they'll use up all the water. In wet year, it rains on the sugar cane. They don't need water from the lake. More water goes into the lake, and there's 2 feet of water left in Lake Okeechobee that come June 1st. It has to go somewhere, and they dump it on us. It is, to me, horribly ironic that the reason we have this problem is we're keeping water for sugarcane. Yes. If we weren't keeping water in the lake for sugarcane, then we could be looking at storage north of the lake and a lot of other stuff. But we're keeping water there in the dry season that we may have to dump when the wet season comes. And as long as we keep that commitment to them, we need someplace to store it. So, if you have a reservoir south of the lake, right now, if it rains a lot, you can't send water south from the lake because the STAs are all full. They're all full of water from the sugarcane fields. It's a one-way shot. Every time it doesn't rain in the dry season, you have to bring water from Lake Okeechobee in. They have no water source. Every time it does rain in that shallow bowl there, you have to pump the water out. They don't have any natural drainage. If you had a reservoir, you could pump the water from the field into the reservoir. You can pump dirty water back into the field, and you could pump it back into the reservoir, and you could recycle. In the process of doing that, you would leave capacity in the STAs so that you could send water from Lake Okeechobee south when you had excess water in Lake Okeechobee. So the EAA reservoir, the EAA storage has been part of SERP since it began. It's a part of SERP that it just won't work if they don't have it. And the sole reason it's not happening now is U.S. Sugar doesn't want to sell. And I am personally a little bit flabbergasted that a company in their position, if they're thinking of long haul, wouldn't be the leader in working this problem out.
Maybe last question?
Yeah.
Maggie, you had mentioned the River Warriors, and if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
we are a group of people that started a group in June of 2013 when the discharges started. We are also friends of Marty Baum, the Indian River Keeper. We have a River Warrior Lodge over by the Roosevelt Bridge. We are meeting there on the 12th at 7 a.m. to carpool down to the governing board meeting in West Palm Beach on Gun Club Road at the South Florida Water Management. There is nothing on the agenda about buying the land and sending it south. But there are 4 items on the agenda, and Jackie and Dr. Goforth and I were at the RAC meeting where I'm parking next to King Ranch trucks and Bubba's on the board, and it's just very frustrating. But there are 4 agenda items that you can speak about at the meeting, and that's 23, 24, 25, 26. I know it's confusing, but it's on the South Florida Water Management District website on the agenda for March 12th meeting. Also, Christy Costello in the Sierra Club, she is bringing buses of people from Tampa and the West Coast and Miami to stand out in front of this meeting at around 8 o'clock and just hold signs to protest, not sending the water south and buying the land. So this is a very, very important meeting. And I think we're going to get some graduation caps to wear to let them know that we are educated about it.
I will tell you that the 40 people who spoke at the Water Management District and were patted on the head and told them they did not understand the complexities, I personally believe understood the complexities of SERB and the problems around Lake Okeechobee than anybody sitting on the Water Management District Board. With that, I better shut up. You're not supposed to make important people mad. And I will let this be passed on to the next speaker. I've got to go down to Miami, otherwise I'd hang around with you.